I'm going to do is... On top of this. The echo is really annoying.
Navigating emotions. But before we get into that, I thought we'd just do a few personal questions. And just like that, we're back out in the upside down world. So yeah, we're going to start off with just a few questions about you. And the first one, just so we can get more of an understanding of where your perspective and mindset comes from being in relationships or your understanding of relationships. The first question I wanted to ask is, we're going to take you back a little while down memory lane.
Okay.
So what's your earliest memory, or what's your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory, I probably would say, this is back in Germany when I grew up. I was maybe, I'm going to say 4 or 5. And this was the first house when me and my mum came from Sri Lanka and my dad took us. And it was like a flat. And next to the flat, there's a river. And there's like trees and everything. And the owner of the flat only lived like next door. So I remember one of us opened by the time my brother was born actually already, but my sister, I think opened the window. And I don't know where my mom was, but she dropped her pacifier. So I remember sitting on the window bench and just looking down. And I was like, maybe I could get it or not. And that's the moment when my mom caught me. Basically, I got grounded and got told off and everything. But that's the earliest one I remember. And it's only little bits. It's the pacifier, the river, the tree. And I also remember the landlord looking from below up. So that's probably my earliest childhood memory.
Nice. I should have probably said this before, but this is a Halloween episode as well for those who are watching this now.
I guess that is a scary one as well
Yeah.
for parents to see,
Give them a bit of insight.
Yeah.
There is a little bit I just noticed.
Oh.
But it's on me
Thank
now.
you.
Camera's on me. So anyways, it's fine. So with that as well, obviously with the family and everything, what family traditions did you have growing up that you want to continue now and what you want to avoid?
Okay.
And the why?
Ooh. I think one tradition was, I'd probably say on the weekend, this is now only when we moved to England, so back in from 2010, so we were closer with my uncle and everyone, my uncle, my aunties, and everyone was like in UK. So we would meet up either Sunday, so everyone would go to the church and come back and my dad would make a feast. And the guys, like my uncles and my dad, would make a feast. The women would also help out, but mainly it's the men who would do the work. And then we women and the kids would the kids is in one section, we all play games, and then the women would play their own games, or they would talk about, the series they have watched and the gossip and things. And then we all get together and there's this game called Carrom Board. I don't know what is actually in English or anything, but it's like little discs and you kind of shoot it. And it's like almost like pool, but you use with your fingers. That is the main family game, or it would be Monopoly. So it would be a lot of like families. So one tradition I would take away, want to do is like family gatherings. So, once I've got my own family, meet up with my siblings, because that's going to be my kids' uncle and aunties, and do that. I particularly wouldn't want to go to church every Sunday. I was made to go every single Sunday church. But personally, I wouldn't want to unless the kids want to. But even then, I don't think so. So yeah, all Christmas times, New Year's. When we were little, New Year's was a huge thing. We would travel to Newcastle, see my oldest uncle, and we'd have a feast, really. So I probably would want to do something like that. Pick a New Year's, go to someone. Ideally, I would want my siblings to come, and once they have kids as well, so everyone's like together on New Year's.
And what about avoid? I know you mentioned church every Sunday.
Yeah.
But is there anything else you maybe wouldn't want to continue?
I don't think there is anything I would want to avoid. No, not tradition-wise. They're all being very great traditions. So nothing I would avoid apart from going to church every single Sunday. Yeah.
And I know now your relationship with your brother and sister and how close you are.
Yeah.
Especially your sister, how much you FaceTime.
Yeah.
What was your experience like with them growing up? How close were you then compared to where you are now with them?
We were very close. Everything. She's always looked up to me, my sister. My brother as well, but he was a boy, so he would always do his own thing. My brother and my sister are a lot closer than I am with them, but once we're together, it's as if we're never departed. I would just say that. There was a gap when I moved to uni. We felt disconnected, but since this year, from January, we're very close. So it's definitely me. From my past, what I've gone through, and I never wanted them to see. But once I've opened myself up, my sister as well, my brother as well, we're always there for each other. Like, even if they've made any mistakes, they will hear it from me that they've done something wrong, but I'll always support them in whatever. And same goes definitely for them with me as well.
That's nice. It's not 2 peas in the pod, it's 3 peas in the pod.
Yeah, no, people do say with us 3, it's definitely a gathering. Like, it's definitely loud. I am the loudest, but people do tend to feel not included, even though we don't mean it, but we get very extroverted the way we talk once we're both together, and we protect each other no matter what it is.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice how close you all are. And I've seen it firsthand with how close you are, especially like with your sister. Obviously, your brother does what he's a lad, does what he wants a bit more, but it's nice to see how close you are and how often you do communicate with one another.
Yeah, I mean,
share.
You know, with the phone conversation, when you come and she already says like, I'm not really well. And you're like, what happened now? And she's like, wow. Yeah. She's nice. She's my little girl still. So that's what I'm like when people are like, oh, what about your sister? I'm like, I'm about to go to jail. But yeah.
And well, from obviously all your experiences in life, all the things you've gone through, everything you've learned, everything you've grown from, all the challenges you've faced, what do you consider to be your core values in life?
I think for me personally, it's always to be a leader. Mainly it's because I'm the oldest, the way I've got my upbringing and everything. So it's how to have your shit together. It's something I've had to learn very, very young. And I think a bit more context than that is like my parents, with the world in the country as well, there's a language barrier. So I've started I was able to read when I was 4. I was able to write when I was 5. I was able to translate letters and everything by 5. So I was very advanced in school when I was quite young as well. But then it's like when I was younger, I wasn't able to understand what my values or anything was. But now at this age, being 29, looking back, it was very much like how to be a leader. And there is a difference between it's actually not between a good leader and a bad leader. Either you're a leader or you're not. And the way I am with my sister and my brother is also being protective and some way controlling as well, but I tend to try and do in the good way, especially with the experience I have gone through. But I am also, as every single person, as a human, you learn. the way you go. So there is a balance of being how protective you are, how much you control and everything. You can't protect them from the evil of the world. So those are my main three things, I'd say.
What would you tell your younger self from what you've learned now? If you could give your younger self some advice from everything you've learned, what would you tell them?
Be patient. Good things do come to you. And sorry.
It's okay.
That everything that you're doing right now, what your parents are teaching you, yes, you got the beat, yes, you got grounded, yes, you weren't able to have the freedom. But if I haven't gone through that, I wouldn't be the person I am right now. And I would definitely tell her, it's understandable that you're angry and you're hurt, you're sad, but just be patient. It will be worth it for what you're working towards too. And I'm not going to lie, there are different stages of my younger self. It will never be, oh, what would you tell your 5-year-old one or the 10-year-old one? They both have experienced different situations, even the 12-year-old or 13. Every single year something has happened. So overall, I would tell my past, be patient. There are good things coming.
Something that you mentioned.
Sorry.
It's okay. Something that you said about your childhood and having to be advanced with the reading, everything and learning because of the language barrier. Obviously, you probably had to go through a lot and do a lot of work with that, everything that came with it. Do you feel you still were able to have a good childhood? Well, not good childhood, I say. Just do you feel you still had a childhood, but able still be a kid? Or do you reckon you're still doing a lot of work with that?
I definitely didn't have a childhood. Like compared to the kids, or I say kids, compared to the kids I see right now, to my friends, what kind of childhood they've had, it's nothing compared to what I've had. I wouldn't be even able to tell them that was the same. I've had to do a lot of work. I've had to grow up very quickly. It was never a point. I don't remember when I was laughing or smiling. There was a lot of taking care of my parents, making sure they're happy. Even in that young age, I was very angry that I had to read this letter, go to this bank appointment and things like that. Sorry.
It's okay.
1 second. Is it really bad?
No, it's good.
Sorry. So going to the bank appointments, landlords, every single like that, I felt like a machine, almost like they were creating a weapon. And when I see people saying, yeah, went, a sleepover at my friends, I haven't had a single sleepover at any of my friends when I was young. Like, not once. I've had people stay over at mine, but my parents wouldn't let me go and stay theirs. Or I wasn't allowed to go past 6 o'clock out, 5 o'clock, that's it, after school. And it was the only people I was able to play with was my siblings. And plus we have only like 2-3 year old differences age-wise. But my sister was busy with dolls. I was generally, every time there was some free time, my brother with cars, but every single time there was some free time with me, they would give me a book. They would give me, I've had a computer, I would literally start writing. That's when I started writing, when I was 9 years old, started writing chapters of books and everything. So my life was all about books and dictionaries. And at some point when I was 10, law book came in my hands, and then they wanted me to be a doctor. So then I started even studying when I was 10, 11 medicine. So it was not the same childhood of playing around and being muddy or go and see your friends or go on holidays or knowing their parents. It wasn't like that. So no, I wouldn't call it a childhood, but it was a different childhood compared to everyone else.
Seeing the person you are now and seeing the person you've become, like this amazing, incredible person, would you change any of that?
No, I wouldn't. But I wish I could have added something. I wish there was some part of freedom, maybe. But I know And I know a person like that, like my past could have absolutely turned like to a different person compared to how I am now. And I appreciate that about myself, that I do pat my own shoulder and be like, "Do you know what? I'm glad you didn't turn around to be this person or that person." But I wish I could remember more happy memories. The only happy memories I do have is just, no, I don't remember. Majoritively, it's just me being alone or being grounded or being in a dark room because I got one time a really bad grade, or I got a lot of PTSD from that when I was young, well, growing up anyways, but I've overcome it. So it's, I wish I could remember more laughing, but at the same time, something I remember past my therapist said it could be possibly because there's so much negativity around it that you don't remember the positive in there. But I'm almost creating the positives to not sit and cry, because in the past I've done it enough. I've done loads of crying. I've done loads of, having very sorrow feelings for myself, but I'm not in the past anymore. I've moved out when I was 19. I'm here now. So it's still everything. I wouldn't say a learning lesson. It's definitely not. It's just something thrown at you, and all you can do is pick it up and work towards it. Work with it, actually.
With the lonely part, what about with your brother and sister? What was it like with them? Did they have happy memories as well? The grounded? What was it like with them? I know you'd be older, but...
Yeah, they definitely didn't experience the same as me, I would say. Especially there was a lot of enviness and jealousy where every time I seen how they got treated. I'm not glad they did get, some or a little less punishment, I would say, but not as bad. Like my brother was very much of a mummy's boy. So my sister was very, very close to my dad. I always felt like not included at all. They were very close, especially they're only 11 months difference. So they were very close to each other. I mean, like, what was it yesterday? Like my sister would just like randomly say something like, "Oh my God, remember when she had, like me, I had sports glasses and stuff." And I'm like, I do remember those, but it's something that they remember that they find it funny. But for me, I didn't find it funny. I got bullied when I was wearing that. In all that kind of situation. So I would never personally feel alone when I was with my brother and my sister, but I did always feel disconnected internally because we didn't share the same interests or anything. I was a bit older, even though 2 years older, it was still, my mindset was already far beyond than theirs. And seeing how they got very, I don't want to say spoiled, because in that young age, you don't know if you're getting spoiled or not, but they definitely had more love. And me seeing that they are getting more love, I felt more lonely. And my sister, she did make obviously a lot of friends. My brother made friends as well. But I know everyone deals with loneliness in their own ways. So I don't know how they felt when they were young. But I know I have seen how individually they have gone through, especially when we moved country from Germany to UK. My sister felt very lonely because she left all her friends and she wanted to go back. And that's that one part. My brother, he was a social butterfly. He was happy with everywhere. But again, as boys, we don't know what's going on in their head because they don't speak. So, yeah.
Some boys might.
Yeah, some boys do. Some boys, I guess.
So that made me think, you said about the spoil and you don't really know if they are or not. I think personally, if they're always, this is what it's going to lead on to what I'm going to ask you, but I think if someone's always told yes constantly, can I have this, can I have that? And it's always a yes, a yes, a yes. They're never told no, or never get that rejection. What was it like with you and your siblings with that? Were you ever told no?
I've always was told no.
What about your siblings?
Yeah, they would get yes. Don't get me wrong, they will get no's, but after a while, they will feel bad, come around and give it to them. There's one thing, I don't know if some people might be able to relate to this, is so in Germany, there's like 3 different school sections, I think it's called. So one is like the lowest. I think after year 5 or 6, no, after year 4, you get to choose. There's grammar school. There's in German's real school, I guess. It's like just middle. And then there's a lower class, I'm going to say. And the best one is grammar school. That because from that, you get to then go straight to what we call it here, A-levels. Back in Germany, it's Abitur, and which is known to be greatest and things. And from there on, you go to uni. And then people who are in the middle, you can still get there. It's just a little not as hard. Like you get to choose if you want to go to A-levels or not. And the lower one, you finish school after year 9 and then you can go to college. And some can divert from the lowest to the middle to the highest. So I was told, okay, if you do the great, grades and everything, you're all A stars and everything, and you go to grammar school, we'll get you a laptop. So I feel like because I've studied even though I was good in school, I still was behind with German. I was not great with grammar, and it did put me behind. So I didn't pass for grammar school. So I went to the second one. And in there, within a year, I then realized there's a lot of stuff that's going on I didn't understand, and I couldn't ask my parents because they didn't study. And they didn't study German anyways, the school-wise. And I wasn't allowed to go and see my friends to study, and my friends didn't really want to come around either. So I was always behind, and my grades didn't go great. And at night times, after a certain time, I'm not allowed to have the lights on. So I would always try and hide with I would steal like my brother's car, which got like a light on. So I would just use that to try and study. And this is like when I was, 8 or 9. And I remember my parents going to the head teacher and asking, is she ready to go to grammar school? And they were like, no, she hasn't got enough good grades. I remember being grounded for 2 weeks for that. And I was like, but I didn't do anything. I'm trying my best. And they're like, it's not enough. So whereas with my sister, she made it to grammar school, and she got a laptop literally the next day. I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, cool. Whereas my brother, he also, actually, I can't remember if he made it to grammar school or not. But by that time, we've already moved country. And this is one thing, like, I've always gotten something, it was always a test. You get this, we get you this. If you don't get it, you're not getting it at all. And it was always not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. And all my life until now, I always hear you're not good enough. I hear one thing from others, oh, no, they're proud of you. I'm like, I'm really sorry, I don't feel like it, but that's just them. Whereas my brother and my sister, they haven't gone through the same pain as me. And don't get me wrong, every single person's pain is different to them. So they might not relate to mine. And what I hear from them, I might not see it as big. I'll be like, yeah, but it's not as big. Imagine what I've gone through, what I'm still going through. But I've learned the last couple of years, like, it's okay. Just because I don't see it as a problem, I can tell them the solution to it. And it has helped so far. And I have, taught them how to deal with certain things, especially with my sister, listening and just let it all out and things like that. But it does give me a bit of a sadness that I wish I didn't have it that bad, to be able to understand people's pain when I know mine is bigger, even though I have just said people's pains are individual to them.
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah. But I think the experience does come in handy when you go through, since I was 5 years old and I'm 29 now, and it has been going on for so long. At some point, someone would have said, why didn't you jump off the bridge yet? And I have felt like that a few times. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm here just for their sake. I don't even know why I live here anymore. I don't know my purpose anymore. I've been told to be this. I've been told to be that. I don't know where I want to be. So, whereas I've always told my brother and my sister, do what makes you happy. I've been told off before that as well.
Do you think you should take your own advice there and do what makes you happy?
I should, but that's the thing. After so long, decades, it's like you don't even know that anymore. What makes you happy even. So there's always going to be a chain on you that makes you feel like, ask yourself, where do I belong? It's something that it's an ongoing, who knows, forever journey that's still trying to get on with it.
It is, but it's also your journey. It's something for you to go through.
Yeah.
No matter who they are in your life, with what they say about you, you can't, as much as we want to sometimes, we can't control that. The only thing we can control is how we feel about ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've seen where you are now, the person you are now, the things you've done, the things you've gone through, and how strong you are. Are you proud of yourself for everything you've gone through?
Oh yeah. I'm always proud of myself. But you know me, I always like, I could do better. But that's generally because always hearing in my ear, that's not enough, not enough. And I'm not gonna lie, I think from the family, my siblings are the only people who've never told me, and you as well now, that I am more than enough, that you're just right where you are. Whereas the people I have been with in a relationship, even some friends have told me as well, it's not enough, it's not enough. Like this and that, like there's so much toxic has been thrown at me, yet I'm proud of myself. I've never had a hard shell around me, because the best way to go through is not to have a shell at all. Otherwise, you're going to end up being a snowflake. You're going to end up being like, everything is too soft and sensitive and you're avoiding certain people's. Whereas the best way I've learned is, all right, if they say it, they say it. I've cried. Yeah, I've tried to run away. Yeah, but I haven't done any of those things. I've tried to hurt myself. I haven't done it. It's just something I always felt like, I did question myself, why haven't I done those things? There are so many people they haven't even gone through what I've gone through, and yet they've spiraled out. Why haven't I spiraled out? It's just something, I guess it's my self-worth, that I know I'm better and I can do it and I will get where I want to be. And that one day, one thing only matters, that you tell yourself that you're enough for yourself.
Yeah, that's the most important part, telling yourself and letting yourself know that you are enough. People who, this is my point of view, people who tell other people that you're not doing enough, you're not enough, are those that should look in the mirror and ask themselves that question.
Yeah.
They're the ones that need to say to themselves, am I doing enough? And if they say, yeah, it's bullshit. No one's perfect. No one's doing everything they can. There's always somewhere that they can improve on, something they can grow with. Mm-hmm. And those who don't say that and are in denial about that, they're in denial and they're lying to themselves about that. There's always room to improve and grow and do better, myself included, everyone, yeah. So with that, because you've touched on it a little bit now, so we're going to get into it, relationships.
Okay.
What were and sticking with childhood here, what were your early relationships like?
Oh, let's just say I didn't know much about relationships. So when I was young, it was never about the physical relationship. Obviously, there was kissing and snogging and that. Sorry. But no more than that. I've had a bit of an ego about my body. So I didn't want anybody to touch me because I'm trying to understand myself. That's one thing.
Like, why do you say ego about it?
I didn't want a number. Like ego about who can take me physically.
But so, is that an ego or just you because is that just you validating your body and saying it's my body, I need to, I'm just not letting anyone touch it?
I guess that's a good way of saying it. A better way maybe. I think I always thought, maybe, okay, there's another thing, I guess, because other people say, oh, you're a bit egoistic about your own body. But I'd rather be ego about it than...
From ego, it's other people being like, because ego comes from external validation, so everyone wanting the body. Whereas you're not focused on that from what I can see. You're focused on that, it's my body, I'm doing what the fuck I want with it. So it's just you protecting your body, I'd say, not necessarily ego, but it's you know what you're saying about your own body. Don't listen to me there.
It's the right way. It's the right thing to say like that way. I've always said, I think it's more because of how other people always projected me about me, but now realizing obviously actually it's about them. they're just not happy about it. But yeah, so I would go, when I was like young, I would go on dates. I wouldn't even know what a date is, but I remember this one funny story, I guess. I said yes to one guy. I was 13 and I said, oh, let's go for, obviously you were young, what are you supposed to do? So he asked me for ice cream. And the place where I stayed is very small, the town in Germany. So we went to one ice cream place, and I also said in school to someone else yes as well. So once that finished, that day was only like an hour or so. And now this is a time where I was allowed during the day. During the day, I'm allowed on a weekend to go, especially when I say, like, especially bike-wise. So like I'm just biking around to a small village. My parents would be like, okay, that's fine, you can go. So I had that freedom. But I didn't, so I then finished with one guy. I then went to the park to meet up the other guy. We said hello and stuff. I didn't know he was going to take me to the same ice cream place. So I thought I'd be fine anyway because the guy might be gone. No, he met up with his guy friends over there as well. So I obviously drove with a bike to this other guy from the park to the ice cream place. And the other guy knew the guy I was with as well. They're mates. They played football. So they were like, oh, what are you here for? I didn't know you were coming. And he was like, yeah, I'm out here with Steph. And he's like, oh, I just been out with him. And I was just sat there like, I just wanted free ice cream. They're like, well, we're on a date. You can't do that. I'm like, really? But I'm not in a relationship. Like, I'm allowed to see other people if I'm not exclusive with one person. I haven't even kissed you. We didn't even hold hands. I'm allowed to do that. Let's just say it didn't end up well. But the other one, I have been in one relationship. He was a bit older. And he was from a different town from school. But that one probably was my first relationship I've spiraled down. He unfortunately passed away while we were together. So that's one. I didn't want to be in any relationships. Then I probably would say a serious one emotionally, like emotional wise, where first time like I love yous was involved was maybe when I was 15.
Before that, sorry, with the boyfriend that passed away, what was that like? So I know you said you just mentioned your first emotional one, but what was that like going through that?
It was definitely a shock. The only thing I can remember from back then is getting a phone call from his mom and saying, yeah, it was an accident and he didn't make it. And I got very much of a PTSD anytime I see a motorbike or hear anything. I would immediately like start praying. Hopefully this person's okay, no matter who it is and everything. I then ended up being very distant with people. I didn't know how to handle it. I definitely cried every evening. My parents wouldn't understand what is going on, anything. They would just say, oh, it's probably because she's bad at school or anything. My siblings never knew about it. And I ended up with very bad friends, let's just say, very bad people. I never did anything what those bad people, I say bad people, the people I was hanging out with did. There was a lot of, with them, drugs involved, all sort of drugs, to the lowest to the highest, but I've never ever touched any of those. And again, looking back, I've never spiraled in a bad way out. I did end up being the person to bully others. However, it was something to, how do you call it? Like, I lashed out. My feelings came out, but not in a good way. So that's around the same time we moved country as well. And I remember getting this letter from this girl, and I'm very ashamed of the person I was back then. And I'm not going to excuse it just because a person died and life happens, but I've gone past it. And this letter from the girl, and she was saying as well, and I remember who it was as well. She's doing great, by the way, right now. And she was like saying that me and the people that I did hang around with back then really gave her a hard time. And even though I wasn't the worst, but she expected more from me and better as well. And none of the people back in school where I was going knew I had a boyfriend anyway. I was very, very, very private because I didn't want my parents to find out. I wasn't allowed to have boyfriends. And if one person sees it, then everybody knows. And then I'll definitely be locked up and homeschooled. And I didn't want that. So no one knew what happened. But as a person, she then did say that she really wanted to disappear from the world in a nice way as possible to say. And that gave me an awakening. I didn't want that to happen. Why would I hurt somebody else when I was that person before? So at that time, there was a trip back to Germany and I went to see the friend. Well, I say friend. We're friends now, but back then I went to see her and we had our own closure and I apologized and we spoke about it. And she then asked me what was going through. She even said, like, you were going through something. That's when I opened up and told her. And for me, it was shocking why she was saying sorry. And she was saying like that everyone goes through their own ways. We still should be careful of what we're saying to other people because words are like knives. And one day a knife does turn into a weapon to like a gun. So I've then changed from that to be a person. If I see somebody's getting bullied, definitely to be the person to go over and say something about it or do something about it. I never want to hurt a person ever again the way I felt like I did to her. So yeah, that was a couple of years of going through something. So yeah, that's that story.
Okay. Did you want to continue with the
relationships
relationships afterwards as well now?
That one is, so I was very new in England, went to school, and I saw this guy, nothing interesting. He always saw me. We were the same age. I was 16, I think it was. And it was nice. We were only like friends. We would never speak in person. We would always be texting. And the first time I've met him was in the cafeteria. And we were just normally friends and talking, but people would always ship us together. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to. And then eventually he did again text me. Like we were on Messenger and was like asking me like, oh yeah, do you want to be my girlfriend? And I was like, oh, okay. That's it. Like I just said, okay, fine. Next day we're together.
Hadn't met or just in
No, we have met. Like basically in school, because he was from a different country as well. And people from different countries, or they're working on their English or anything, there is a little on lunch times or sometimes for an hour there is a bit of like a tutoring. I've never had to go to the tutoring or anything because by that time I was already year 11, and those times we would always meet, but we wouldn't talk to each other, but we would stare at each other or look at each other or something like that. So it was like a cute, not high school, like secondary school, is that? Yeah. Like a moment. And yeah, we were together there, and he probably, I can't remember how the I love you and all that came in. I don't know if that was also over text first time. I don't think we ever said it in person. I think it would always be text, but we were too shy to say it in person. We were only like 6-7 months together, to be honest. And then something that he made me realize, we couldn't see each other in the future. And I was always very delusional about it. I thought, no, we can make it work and stuff. But deep down inside, I realized, no, we can't be together. I'm still young. I'm still with my parents, and I'm not allowed to even go and find a job at that age either. So I have to go to A-levels or college. I want to go to college, same college as him, but my parents wanted me to go to A-levels. So yeah, he then broke up with me, but it was very, very civil. It was like we had talked about it, and he was like saying, I can't see you in my future. I'd love to, but it just can't work. And that's when I realized he's right. So we would still, until this day, like how many years has gone past now? Very long time. The last time was like 2011 I seen him, but he's in a very happy relationship now. I'm in a great relationship, and we still talk now and then, catch up, like how you doing, how's things, and that's it, really. After that, I've been not in a great relationships, but very much like short dating period, I would say. I've gone through abuse as well, where that's when I realized there's just this one guy who was very much into weed and stuff. But I think that's when I kind of realized seeing effects when someone takes it too much and they get very paranoid. He was very paranoid that I was seeing his best mate, but where even though we don't have anything like that, and one day he pushed me down the stairs because he got very, very paranoid, and he was smoking weed at the same time as well. Didn't like it. I'm not sure if it was just weed or something else was in there as well. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not. That's the last time I've seen him. But the last thing I've heard was from his friends that he was in rehab. So good on him. Like, that was very bad. And then I was in a relationship. It was for 2 years, I would say we were together. Nothing physically involved. But at the same time, I then found out on the day, it was like last year, I had to do 3 years of A-levels. So the last year, we were like a year and a half or something together. Actually, not 2 years, a year and a half. And the last day where we got all the certificates and stuff from A-levels, I called him and my former best friend making out. So I was like, what is going on? They were like, the usual shit, like saying, oh, we can explain. I'm like, okay, I'm here, explain then. He then came up and said, it's because you didn't want to have sex. And I'm like, so? And it's funny because I wanted to wait until I was at least above 18. And I was like, and I don't know where that come from. I just wanted to wait, be an adult and understand my own body. And, as a woman, everyone should understand how not to get pregnant, and also diseases and everything all scared me. And I wanted to be also with someone that I can trust my body with. I'm glad I didn't do that with him. And also it all made sense where he would pick her up from school, because by that time we were able to drive. They would always meet up, and I always thought they're just helping each other. Oh, it's so great. My boyfriend is hanging around with my best friend. They're getting along and stuff. Yeah, it didn't go so well. And at that time, the friends I was with, they all knew, and they didn't want to tell me because they said it will hurt you. I'm like, he's hurting me now. It's the fact you guys didn't even tell me, but you knew about it. So that is the first time probably I then emotionally and mentally spiraled out. And I think the first thing it just hit my head is, just because I didn't give my body away, you just thought you could do it behind my back with somebody else. I'm not very proud of this. Went to uni, met a guy, didn't even want to be with him to begin with, but things happened. We got drunk. And then it was only months after maybe I wanted to actually get to know him, because I was like, he's my first. I was his first actually. And then, although I don't know how true that is, but he told me I was his first. Let's just take it that. Then we got to know each other. We were dating for a bit, and everything was like drinks involved. He only asked me out when he was drunk as well to be his girlfriend. And then next day he said, I don't remember. It really, really hurt me. And that's when I realized, no, there's too many drinks involved with this guy. So I said, I don't want to do this anymore. If someone wants to ask me or do anything, it should be really with no drinks involved.
Should be sober.
Yeah, and I wish I was sober. Otherwise, I would have just avoided it the first time. But I'm not going to lie, even though I'm saying that, he was a great boyfriend in the end. I've explained the situations and how I feel about it. We got closer. We've seen each other. We did have a house share together as well. And he grew from it. But there were stories behind his past that came forward, which I didn't like at all. The day he told me he loved me, he actually, this is not very proud of it, but this was like 2 years later, after we actually officially got together, and me and his sister, we were playing around, messing around, we were drinking. I think it might have been around Halloween, I can't remember. And we were in our bedroom, me and her, and we were just playing around. She was actually playing around with his phone. And I was like, oh yeah, let's go through the text and stuff. And I see the same girl he told me not to worry about. He told her the same day he told me he loved me, he told her he loves her. And it broke my heart. Yes, people are going to say how stupid I am, but I forgave him. and that saying that it was a long, long time ago and stuff like that. But like a year after that, I found out I had to use this laptop. Now, I didn't snoop. I had to print out something and I used this laptop and I deleted, after I printed it, I deleted the document. I needed something for work. And I went to the bin, to the recycling bin, and I saw the picture of a girl. And I was like, whose picture is this? And when I looked up, I saw the name. And then I looked when it was actually done, because it was an old laptop. It could have been years ago. I'm not going to make assumption out of this, but it was only 2 days ago from the day I tried it. And I was like, what? Everyone's going to hate me now, but I forgave that as well. So moving on from that, I then also found so many things like that, similar, always the same girl and things. In the end, it only ended because I wanted to do my master's. I wanted to progress in life. I wanted to progress job-wise. He always was in my way. He said, why don't you settle? All you want to do is getting more money and progress and change job. And like, why do you want to do masters now? And I just felt like, because that's what I want to do. I feel like otherwise I'm going to get stuck. I want to do more. I'm feeling too closed up. I didn't feel listened. And I was like saying, like, listen, when I came to uni, I was hurt, but I also didn't plan on having a relationship straight away. But I want you to understand what it is. And I couldn't finish my sentence even. I couldn't even talk. And he was like saying, well, maybe we should break up then. After I listened, I was like, I agreed. I was like, I think, yeah, we should. Because this is not going well. I can't do what I want. And clearly you can do whatever you want. This is not going well. He started crying. I didn't. Because I think at that moment, so many things has happened in the relationship that I just let go constantly. That I didn't feel anything anymore. And all those years I've always cried. And again, I just saw myself back when I was a child with my family. I was like, I'm not doing this. So I was literally packing my stuff already. Within a week, I found a place. That's the same week I got Barclays called me and asked me for an interview. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure, why not? And I got it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And within the week, to be honest, I was around the same time for a whole month. I had to wait. And I then was training obviously in Barclays. And then I found a place, I moved. And yeah, he would text me and everything, but I always say like, it's done, like it's over. And he would be like, because I remember, I don't have it right now, obviously, my nose piercing, he would always stop me from having a nose piercing as well, but I always liked it. I remember when I got nose piercing, I would post in my profile. And he's like, oh, actually, nose piercing does look great. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't need to tell me that. I felt more free to do what I wanted to do. And I started my master's and everything. And then months later, I started seeing someone. He then got wind of it. I say wind of it. He did kind of feelings, but I was straight up with him because he would always message me about it. Like, oh, hey, let's see each other. I'm like, no, don't want to. And then I told him, listen, I'm already seeing someone. And he's like, what, already? Why? It makes me feel like that, all this time you've seen someone then. I'm like, no, I haven't. That's when I realized that this person doesn't even know me, never knew me. I would never do that to another person. But I think in that moment, it was their guilt because they were already doing things. And after then being told that this whole time when we're together, they were talking to this other person as well. Even though he promised me he'd never do that again. So it's just, I should have just listened the whole time, my gut, and should have just let go. But I've always felt like I wasn't enough. And again, with what we talk about the childhood and stuff. And every time I felt something like that, I wanted to do more, have more patience and this and that. So eventually what I should have done, and there was a lot of things going on around the time. My best friend passed away. My rabbit, who was actually my emotional pet, he passed away. And a lot of things was going on that year. So what I should have done at that time is focused on myself and really just be with myself. Sorry.
Okay.
Can you just cut that?
Yeah, but whilst you're doing that, I'll say, I know the person you are now and the things that you forgave him for. If that happened now, you wouldn't in a heartbeat.
No.
You'd be straight out the door. obviously we have to go through things to learn from them, so we don't make the same mistakes again, or don't go through the same circumstances or situations again. So why do you think you forgave him in them situations that happened? Do you think you had to go through them to learn from them? Or is there a different reason why you felt you forgave them or forgave him?
I think at that time I was really in love. It's the love I was blinded, but I wasn't in love. It was loving the person who I wanted them to be. And this is something I've told him as well. I did love you, but I believe I wanted the man you couldn't be. But I know you had potential. I was loving the potential man, but you didn't want to grow in that. So eventually, because I felt like that, and there was never... It's kind of a thing. People told me I'm not enough. But what I realized was they are not enough for me. And that's why I started forgiving and anything and all that kind of stuff. I was confused. And I'm not going to lie, at that time I was my pill as well. So a lot of people might not agree with that, but it does affect how your relationship works. So, and the things I was going through and everything, I feel like I tried to make him an anchor. So I forgave the things. I felt that attachment maybe. And also not only that, because he was my first. And I wanted to be with my only first, not to be with another person. So I think that's why I was like, we can make it work. We can make it work. Why not? If you want to try, I always felt like you want to try to the fullest. And I think that's why on that one day when he said maybe we shouldn't be then, I felt like, I've always felt like that though for the long have we've been. There have been moments I always told my head, maybe we shouldn't be together, but I never said it out loud. Because instead of saying out loud, I told myself, let's make it work. But what I should have done, spoke with him, communicated that feeling towards him. But when he said it out loud, instead of taking a moment to speak to me, I knew there and then that this is it. This is done because we're not in the same level anymore. So, yeah, but I learned from those mistakes. That's what I thought anyway. Because then officially 2020, I think it was 2020 or 2021, I can't remember, because that's how irrelevant that whole couple of years are to me. I got into another relationship that I definitely to this date, and my friends have told me as well, I shouldn't have stepped into. I've been played around. It was a whole game. I think it was definitely kind of maybe a rebound situation for me to get disconnected of something. Lockdown happened, and I think because it's so fresh and I would just end up raging about it. So it's in a nutshell very much of what I've learned is how to see a narcissistic person and who really just gaslights you to the end and cheats without taking any accountability. And yeah, but once obviously that's done, I took the time for myself, focused on what my needs were. I've realized obviously last year when I've gone through a lot of situations and circumstances made me to be still with this, not with the person, but like living with the person in that moment, I realized the amount of things I thought in my first my physical relationship, I've given up, but I've given more up for this person, the second person. That's when I realized, speaking to my therapist, that I have so much to give, but I'm giving to the wrong people. I am not even giving it to myself as well. So I decided while I was healing, using the opportunity who I have to feel safe, but to grow. And then now here I am.
And here you are.
Yeah.
So obviously obviously with your relationships is something I want to go on to now, and we can break this down into 3 sections. We'll do it. So according to, this is what I read in the Time, an article, there are 3 fundamental lessons that drive the happiest and healthiest relationships: empathy, positivity, strong emotional connection. So before we break these down, what are your thoughts on just them three? Do you
Very
agree
important.
with them?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Let's break down empathy first. So we'll just give a brief understanding, then we can go into it and what it actually means in a relationship. So empathy, start off with, it's just basically just understanding and reacting to the emotions of others, or in this situation, your partner. So how important is empathy?
Very important. It's like so high up there. Even if you don't, like, if you can't sympathize, at least empathize. It gets you more closer to the other person you're with as well.
Okay. I completely agree as well. I don't need to go into it. You've pretty much said it. It's very important. Just understanding understanding the other person and why they feel the way they do about certain things and the emotions they feel. The second one's positivity, which is finding ways and positivity, which is some people might find it hard to do, find the positivity. And something I read, which I find really interesting, is finding ways, which is, they phrased it, the little things, which is finding ways to compliment your partner every day. And this can be appreciation for something they've done or telling them something you love about them. And not only does this validate your partner, it helps them feel good about themselves, but it also reminds you why you fell in love with them in the first place. So again, how important is positivity in a relationship? Obviously, it's probably huge, but if you can go into it a little bit.
It's very important. Always, I'm a bit half on that, because when there are issues happening, obviously you want to look on the green side, but which is the positive side, and being positive about that is just a phase. But how long will that phase be? How many times is this argument going to come up? How many times are you going to have the same conversation over and over and over again? And if you've already had it once and you're going to have it twice, you're going to have doubts going to get created. Are we going to have it the third time? You're always going to be on the look around. It's definitely always important to go back to the roots and remember, why are we here? Why am I with this person? How did I fall in love with this person? What do I love with the person? So, yeah, positive is still important. There is still a boundary and a silver lining. When is it too much?
We'll get into boundaries as well later on in this. I want to go through strong emotional connection next, which is emotional responsiveness, about sending a cue and having the other person respond to it. And it's about the emotional synchronicity and being tuned into that. And from what I've found, it's what makes couples unhappy is when they have that emotional disconnection and they can't get a feeling of a secure base or a safe haven with their partner. And criticism and rejection often is met with defensiveness and withdrawal, which are exceedingly distressing and something that our brain interprets as a danger cue. And so what couples need to do is to learn how to talk about feelings in a way that brings the other person closer. So let's break it down, your thoughts on strong emotional connection.
I think strong emotional connections really comes down to what you both experience together. So if, let's say, you have an argument, or not just, okay, let's just focus on the happy moments even, how you kind of bounce back to each other as well, who sits both of you down and talk about situations. I think it really comes down to creating experience and talk about it, but creating the memories as well. And always go back to the memories and talking about it in random situations and moments. And it's also, I think, mainly the majority of the time, strong emotional connection gets created when the couple is going through something difficult. Let's say a financial burden, or, you know, someone's passed away, or even they're having a very rough patch and they communicate talking about it. But it can also happen when you it should be also happening when you're having a really, really, really fun time. And a lot of people forget about those moments. They just focus on the arguments or what has happened. But it's still very important. Sorry, what's that question? What's that?
Just your thoughts on that. 'Cause
Yeah. Like, that's why I think it's again, it goes back to positivity and empathy, I feel like, with both. Like, if you have empathy, you going automatically have the positivity and automatically the strong emotional connection as well. If you have strong emotional connection, you are coming with positivity and empathy. So all those three things are all linked. You can't have one or the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They all three do link in one way or the other. And I think, especially from the strong emotional connection, it's being able to talk about your feelings with your person, your emotions, without feeling judged or criticized for that. Knowing that you're not going to get some constructive criticism about, oh, you feel this way because of so and so. It's just listening, understanding why they feel the way they do.
Yeah.
And it kind of comes on to my next point. So we're going to break this down about this. It's whenever your partner is feeling upset, overwhelmed, agitated, or stressed, something that's going on with their life, and there's one simple question you can ask them, and it's, do you want to be helped, heard, or hugged? And what do you think about that question? Because for me, from what I've seen from it, it shows empathy, it respects boundaries, and it calms swirling emotions and helps the partners take positive action, because the partner then gets a choice, say, this is what I want. And they could also say the option of, I just need time. And it's about the other person responding to that and the boundaries involved. So what are your thoughts on the question to asking your partner, do you want to be heard, helped, or hugged?
I think it would trigger me. I'd be like, why do you not know what to do? But at the same time, but that's me, obviously. But I think it's
It's also not assuming that you just want,
Yeah.
because the person you may not, at this moment in time, what's happened before, the partner may know what to do.
Yeah.
But for this time, it may be, no, they don't want that. It's just,
Yeah.
just giving you control of the situation, because you're the one that's feeling that way.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a very nice gesture. At least the person knows what they want, because at that moment, they're just feeling that way. Personally, when someone is in that situation, they don't know what they want. They don't know what is best. So I always tell the other person, just sit down, hold their hand, and just wait for it.
It's the hugs, it could be, in a way.
It could be the hugs, yes. I think go for the hugs first. But sometimes, some people don't want to be touched when they feel like it. And if they don't want to say anything, talk anything, like for me personally, it's happened in the past where I'm just crying and someone's trying to hug me. I'm like, get away from me. And then they go away. But then I get more upset, like, why are they going away for? They just want someone in the room to be there, to just be there if something happens. And sometimes, for me, if let's say, it's the same thing when I forget my friends, and it's happened a few times now, where they call me and they're crying, and I'm just like, okay, just breathe, let your feelings out, and I'm here. That's more like on a person over the phone. It's the same thing with me towards another person when they're crying. I'm in like face to face to them. I just let them out, like just cry it all out, get all your feelings and emotions out. And then I go kind of like on the physical part of like, I'm going to hug them and then just wait and then be like, okay, what's the problem? And then afterwards, now this is me, I'll be like, right, okay. And I don't even ask the question, which I should, like, what can I do? In my head, I'm already figuring out what the solution could be for this person to do their next step. But instead of telling them what to do, I suggest them, why don't we do this? And instead of saying, why don't you could want to empathize and then make it you both of their issue and kind of say, let's do this. Maybe we should do this. But in that moment, all you want to make sure is that this person lets all their emotions out. So it doesn't affect their answer, their result or whatever they're going to say. It affects their decision. So
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. What if they want to be left alone?
Then you leave them alone. Absolutely. Sometimes when someone says, leave me alone, they don't mean it. They definitely don't mean it. It depends. And that is, it's a 50-50 coin. You're going to have to either leave them alone, or you should know that person by then if you should leave them alone or not. Or you just sit there and you're going to play their own game. Be like, well, last time when I was upset, you didn't leave me alone. You sat there and you waited for me until I was ready. So I'm going to do the same thing. And that's how I am. So, but it's really read the room, I would say. Feel their emotions, be an empath and involve them. No person should be alone. It is true. You should leave them alone, give them time. But when you know it's not you, they don't want to be alone. They just want someone to be there without touching or anything, and just hear them out. Just let them how they are. And then slowly they will come to you and they will thank you that you didn't walk off. And in that moment, you don't want to turn around and be like, why'd you tell me to go away? In fact, you didn't mean it. In that moment, they don't know what they're saying. Their emotions are getting so, it reflects and affects what they say. Yeah. What?
Nothing. Let's talk about, because I've spoken to you about this before, for how to engage the importance of an issue within a relationship, which is the 1 to 10 method. And for those who don't know, it's basically just asking your partner, how important is this on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, you can't apply this to everything, because that would just, it can cause issues. There's certain ways you just can't. There are going to be certain issues that are right at the top, like moving house, bills, so on. It can be for the little things, like, I don't know, I want to change the blinds to a different color. I want to change the blinds. How important is this to you on a scale of 1 to 10? And it's just sort of helps communicate better and to avoid unnecessary conflicts. It's a practical tool to stop fighting a relationship and can significantly improve trust and understanding. But obviously you don't want to use it all the time, because otherwise some people could just say the numbers for the sake of saying it, just to avoid taking control. But it's basically, if the number's high for you, not for the other person. So say, for example, I say to you, I want to change the blinds. How important is this to you on a scale of 1 to 10? If you just say a number low, like 2, and for me it's like a 6 or 7, obviously I'll take control of it. You don't really care. So you're going to leave it with me. Whereas if they're both sort of around the same number, we can say 6 each or 7 each, whatever, if they're both quite high, then we'll obviously talk about it and we'll get through and say, why is this so, what does this mean to you? And what does this mean to me? So it's obviously, again, there is also a risk of misuse with the scoring method. Some might exaggerate their feelings to manipulate the situation, creating an imbalance in the relationship. And this misuse can undermine the trust and sincerity that the method aims to foster, to create. But obviously for certain things it can be used. It shows just that, okay, this means more to me than you. I'll take the lead on this. This means more to you than me. You'll take the lead on this. So how do you feel about the 1 to 10 method?
I think that's a good idea. However, I feel like some people, they might not care about it, but then when it comes to it, let's say he or she goes to the store, we just use the blinds as an example, and they get the blinds they like, obviously, come back to the house and they come in, actually, I don't like this blind. They're like, well, you said you don't care. So I decided to take, it's like, yeah, but now I care and I don't like it. So it's like, it depends in what moments and what mood you're in and what feelings, because it affects your answer, obviously, when you use this kind of method. So it's definitely now and then certain situations, but do talk about it before if you're serious about it. Not like make rules like, okay, now I care more about the fabric of the blanket, if that's the case, or the bed sheets, let's just say that. I care more, but you don't. But I'm going to go and get it, obviously. But if you're coming back to me and saying, I don't actually like that one, I like this more, well, you can't say that. But that already creates also friction. Like, I mean, although I feel like sometimes it can be a learning curve. So for someone to be like, but why do you care so much about the blinds? It creates a conversation. Be like, yeah, well, because, blinds are a lot better than curtains. Blinds are so much easier to use. It hides a lot more. We don't need to go out of our way and get blackout curtains and stuff. And it kind of like educates the other person about certain things. Like for me, I never used to care what kind of bed sheets the fabrics are. But being with you now, cotton or linen is very important. So now I've never ever bothered to look what kind of fabric certain bed sheets are. I just go in, buy it and go. I'm like, okay, this looks pretty. This is very soft. And that's it for me. Whereas now, every time I look, obviously I check it. I'm like, oh, you double check, please, because I know you care more. But then I start to care about it as well. So I then also have a look at it. So it can bring people closer. But it really depends. I think it's a good way to test if your partner is right for you or not. And make a really good conversation, educated, and also grow together and bond together with it as well.
There's something I've seen on Reddit, and also something I got from watching another podcast as well, which is, and we're going to break this down as well afterwards, but for those that are unsure about their relationship, obviously with their partner, it's 5 questions to ask yourself if you're unsure about your relationship. 1, if someone told you you're a lot like your partner, would this be a compliment to you? 2, are you truly fulfilled or just less lonely? 3, are you able to be unapologetically yourself, or do you feel the need to show up differently to please your partner? 4, are you in love with who your partner is right now as a whole, or are you only in love with their good side, their potential, or the idea of them? And 5, would you want your future or imagined child to date someone like your partner? What do you feel about them questions?
Do you know what? The last question is so important. It's very, very, very important. So many, I'm going to just, for this case, divide it to myself about the guys I've been with. They definitely wouldn't allow their daughter to date someone like them. If you absolutely don't want that, then do not act the way you are. Because that just reflects on your kids. It goes genetically, I guess, or whatever that is. But those questions are very interesting. I would agree with it as well. The first question, I don't know. What is it? You're a lot like your partner.
Yeah, if someone told you you're a lot like your partner, would this be a compliment to you?
Depends how they say it, on that tone and body language. I mean, I know for a fact no one can come to me and be like, you're a lot like Sam. I'll be like, he's a great person. I'll take that as a compliment, but I know I'm not anything like him. He's calm. I'm not. What's that supposed to mean? But I would still laugh about it. It really depends who would say that. I feel like if it's like, yeah, it would depend how they say it, the way they say it. But I don't know why that is even I wouldn't say that should be a question to feel like about your other partner or anything.
Why?
I feel like that's just an assumption or like an opinion, what other people think of that person rather than what you think of the person.
Yeah, but based on what you know about the person, your partner. If someone said you're like them, and based on what you know about your partner.
Okay, well, that makes sense then.
Yeah, ignore the person who's saying it.
Okay,
it's what you know about your partner.
Yeah, that makes sense now. I think, yeah, if you feel like, oh, I don't want to be, then yeah, you kind of a bit already caught yourself. Those are really good questions. I like them.
Next one is, which is interesting, it's a little bit about the Bible, which I
Okay.
know you love. So it's, how important is teamwork in a relationship? And it's funny because there is only one sentence in the Bible about how you should choose your partner. And it's, you should choose someone that you could go to war with. A relationship is a team effort.
Which Bible did say that?
Which Bible?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
But yeah, apparently there's only one sentence in there about how to choose your partner.
Yeah, I know, but there has been so many Bibles written. So that's what I was wondering from which
We
Bible.
can go down a rabbit hole with that. But that's not.
No,
that's not.
That's why I just kind of wanted to throw it there.
Just that's just something that's found in there.
What
But
was
more
that
important-
again? Sorry.
What the quote?
Yeah.
It's, you should choose someone that you could go to war with.
Okay.
But overall, how important is teamwork in a relationship?
It's very important, but you should also be very independent as well. Self-sufficient for yourself as well. As much as when it comes to relationship, that teamwork is definitely high up there. But if the other person is down, it's all on you now. So you should also really be good on being independent as well. It's like, you know how we said in the beginning, it's never 50-50. It should be always 100-100. That's what makes a teamwork. 50-50 is independent individually. If you have 100%, I have 100%, that's teamwork. But if you have, let's say, only 80% and I'm 100, that's still teamwork, but it's not the perfect teamwork. It's still independent. So there's nothing wrong with that. You should still, like, because I'm the 100, I've got enough to be independently to bring you back up as well, but to protect our relationship, to do whatever it is this. Let's say financial is a huge thing anymore for people. So there's nothing wrong being in certain aspect to be not to be 100-100, because, you know, if one person can't pick it up, then the other person picks it up. If I can't pick it up, then you pick it up. But it's called teamwork. What people see it, it's teamwork. But actually it's not. It's independent, and there's nothing wrong with it either. Because if you didn't have that 100, then it would have just not worked out. Like, it would have just destroyed the whole thing, I would say. I mean, let's say with the war as well. When you go to war, everyone is teamwork, obviously. If, let's say we both march up and things like that, but let's say I'm down.
I think it's more so with you can have someone who's going to stay in the trenches while you're running down the line, or you can have someone who's going to be by your side with you.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to get there where we both are running and, you know, making sure we're all good, we have each other's back and stuff. But blind side, I'm down. It will only bring the whole team down if you also staying behind. You want to make sure, like, I'm not obviously dead or anything, but I can be somewhere safe, and I'm just going to wait until you're done with your stuff and then come back and get me. So you still need to work on your independence, to focus on yourself as well as the teamwork. But the team, like, the other person is just resting for now because she can't get herself up, or he can't get herself up. So you need to go and do what you need to do to be able to come back, and then when the other person has rested, to be then back together and make a teamwork. So teamwork is important, but sometimes people misuse the word teamwork to make the other person do everything just because the other person can't do it.
Explain.
So this is something in my past relationship has happened. Let's say we're a team for 1.5 years. The guy never worked and I had to pay for everything. It's like, because we're teamwork. That is not teamwork. And I realized that after I kind of got out of it and healed and made the journeys and talked to so many different therapists, and they said, that is not teamwork, Steph. That is financially abusing you, emotionally abusing you, and basically making yourself vulnerable as well. Because I, at that time, thought that was teamwork. Because if one person is down, of course, you're going to be that partner to pick them up. You're going to cover for them until they get themselves up. But not for that long where you even get yourself in debt and you don't know what else to do. And then they are also putting you down, saying you're never great independently. And helping them with passions as well. That is just coming from one side. I learned how to be independent while someone told me we're a team when it wasn't a team. Whereas, let's say a teamwork is when both have discussed about it, what is going on. Temporarily, one or the other can pick the other person up, as long as the other person's doing something about it to be back on their feet, to be 100%. And the other person absolutely should help the other person as well to be in 100%. But if you're not doing something on yourself to get back on your feet, don't call it a teamwork, because you're expecting the other person to do it for you. That's why I kind of say that teamwork is important, but personally, it also can be silver lining. Like, I think for the first time, me personally, anyway, after learning all these relationships and teamwork and all these emotions what come with it, that the relationship I have with you is teamwork. Because We always make sure individually we're 100. Even when you notice I'm not 100, you always come over and bring, like, while I'm working on my own 100 and you see it, you give me yours as well. And we always find a way of bouncing back, like yin and yang, basically. But it's important to people to realize what teamwork does entail.
I'm going to give you a quote here, and then you give your thoughts on this.
Okay.
And it's coming back to when we talked about boundaries. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice.
Say that again, sorry.
When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice.
It's true. Yeah. Like, I've never thought of putting any boundaries up, but once you put a boundaries up, you can see who the people are because they don't like it that you put boundaries up. There is, I've got strikes now on people. I'm like, okay, that person wasn't there when I needed them. Okay, that's one strike. Let's see if they're going to do the next time. Then the boundaries up. We're like, okay, no, I don't need to chase you. I don't need you to come to me. Don't speak to me about your problems when you haven't been there when I spoke to you about my problems. And I'd still think people know that the other person doesn't have boundaries and they misuse it. It's still on them. And sometimes boundaries can be dangerous for yourself as well. If it's too much, because you don't start letting people in, which is also because of their past and because of what they've gone through as well. Like, I still don't have that many boundaries. But I'm very careful who I let in. Maybe that is my boundary, who I'm letting in, actually.
I'd say so. For me, boundaries, it's more about where I'm focusing my time and energy. And I don't want to be wasting my energy on people that aren't in my life or that don't have any effect on my life in a way. I don't want to be wasting my time dealing with negativity when it's just going to drain me. It's going to drain my time or waste my time. And it's going to drain my energy as well. Whereas that energy and that time can be focused on the people that are in my life and that are important in my life. So the boundaries for me, it's all about focusing on the things that are important to me and the things that are in my control. And funny enough, the boundaries are within my control. I set them.
Yeah.
And I decide who's in it, what's in it, and how I'm going to respond when certain things don't go my way or certain things try to break into my boundaries and break through that shield, force field, you could say something like that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about, focusing my time and energy on the things that are most important to me and the things I want, more so the things I want to focus on. I don't want anything outside of that. Again, I don't want anything outside of that draining my energy or wasting my time. Because you only have a certain amount of time every day and you only have a certain amount of energy before you get knackered.
You spend it wisely.
Before you get knackered or before you get tired. I want to use it I want to use it for important things and to use it wisely. And the next quote I want to give you, again, is similar. Boundaries define us. They define what is me and what is not me. A boundary shows me where I end and someone else begins, leading me to a sense of ownership.
That's funny. I think boundaries represent your past. And that's why you create them. I mean, without going through certain experiences, how would you have known to create certain boundaries?
But more so, the past is,
it is
you learn
protect
from the
yourself.
past, but they're also what you want to focus. They're also there for the future as well, and for the next day, what you want to be there and what you don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you learn from your past. Everything that's happened in your past, you can learn from, grow from, whatever you want to do with them. But more so, I think it does define us in a way, because it's also shows us what's important to us.
Yeah.
What you want to be in your boundaries and what you want in that circle or force field, whatever you want to call it. And in a way, you do learn from your past. Okay, these are the things that have happened to me. These are what I want out of my life, and these are things I want in my life, but for the future as well. And obviously, that's going to change.
Yeah.
It's not set. It's not always set in stone. Certain things may change. Things may come into your boundaries. Things may go out of your boundaries as you get older. But I do believe it sort of does. Yeah, it defines you, and also what you do want and what you don't want. What is you and what isn't you.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we have talked about boundaries there, but how important are boundaries, do you feel, in a relationship as well?
I think it is important, but depends on what maybe.
More for yourself.
I think for myself, it really depends. I can't think of anything. I don't really have any boundaries, I don't think, with you. So, yeah, it's if once I've never felt unsafe. And that's the thing. I sometimes feel like if I'm going to start creating boundaries towards my partner I'm with, I'll be worried. Because why am I creating a boundary and why do I have to feel unsafe? And what am I avoiding in the future? Why? Because obviously we, as you said, like we create boundaries because we want to be and don't want to be. We know what we want and don't want. And we only know that because of what's happened in the past, which is a lesson and we learned. But if we have truly learned, now this is me personally, why are we creating the boundary? But it is important to create it so we don't get hurt again, as we did in the past. But people are different in the future. We don't know who we are coming across. And personally with me, let's say I did have that boundary in the past, like last year, but once I got to know you, or once I get to know a person in general, even if it's a friend as well, like a stranger, and I will have a boundary like, I'm not going to share about this life, I'm not going to share about this situation or this subject. But once I get to know them, I'll open myself up. But I guess, to be honest, my one boundary is definitely not one single. My male friends have to speak with my sister. That is definitely one big thing, you know that as well. Some of my friends will ask and I will go absolutely feral. That is a number one boundary for me. Another one, I guess, for myself is people who think they're still friends with me. I already feel very bad for them because I don't associate myself with them, but I know for a fact they still think they're my friends. The boundary would be that I'm not letting them back in. I will say hello, hi, I'm great, you're doing well. That's about it. So yeah, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, but that's just my boundaries up, and I'm sure they're not very happy about it, but clearly I've done something right, so.
We're going to go on to the final bit now, which is mastering and navigating emotions. So something I've seen as well is people who like to improve themselves are missing one key area or element of this, emotions. To understand feelings, feel them, integrate them, and work out where they are coming from. This is the area where there is the most room for growth. Mm-hmm. So how important is it to be able to understand emotions and feelings for you?
Very important.
Your own emotions and feelings, this is.
Yeah. I think I've struggled for years to realize that the most important thing is to understand my feelings. Why am I feeling like this? Why do I still feel unfulfilled? No, why do I still feel unfulfilled? What is missing? Why am I not feeling anything? And it was always something, either it's the wrong partners. I mean, it was definitely early this year, I've realized I've never been happier before, realizing it was never me, it was the person I was with. But same time, when something goes out of control for me, I mean, you've seen it now this week happening where I just shut myself off and I'm just stressing myself out. And those are even things I can do something about it. But because it's something so unexpected, that my mind just spirals out. Now, back then, I just quickly shut down and I just don't even talk. Everything is in my head and just so bad. But now I'm just letting it out. I'm just gonna let it out. I don't care how bad it is. I just need to let it out because it's so much. And I felt better because I ended up obviously sorting it out, and I had a really bad headache and that's when I realized the way I am with my feelings, and it's so big that it affects me mentally. And usually, I avoid taking tablets, but I had to take something because it made me cry. My eyes were literally in pain. I was just like, no, I can't. A brain is like a machine. If you keep it constantly on, it fries. The same thing like a laptop, if you unplug it, it won't last even 10 minutes. So you always keep it plugged to make it run. So for me, I have to unplug it now and then, my brain. And I'm trying to obviously figure out a way to decompress. So like baths and stuff. Or a glass of Prosecco helps always.
It does.
It does help. So things like that. But just take a moment for yourself and feel what you feel. And then don't even question at that moment why you're feeling it. Just feel it. Let it come out. Like I listen to my body and just be like, something is going to come. And yeah, I cry. But yeah, it's okay. Back then I'll be like, why am I crying? I don't want to cry. But now I'm like, let's just cry. After a really good cry, everyone feels better. I was like, okay. Like, I feel pretty again. I feel great again. I'm like, I can rock the whole world if I wanted to. And then the moment comes and I'm like, oh no, I can't. Which is also okay. But I don't think I've ever been close as I am now with my feelings than I've been before. And it's still an ongoing journey, and it should be an ongoing journey with your own feelings, because we're only human. The way our body works is so different every single second. Especially a woman's body anyway.
And from what I've looked at and from what I've found, again, people can fact check this and double check it, because really we don't actually have an exact idea on this. This is just people from what they've found. But apparently there's believed to be over 34,000 emotions, and that's separated into 27 categories within that.
Wow.
So there's a lot for people to know. New emotions are going to come up sometimes. So you're not going to understand at first why.
Yeah.
Which is why it's good to take the time to just sit there and sit with it and just see what else arises with that, and then just work through it. So something I've got on here is, for those who want to know, it's like 3 steps on how to master your emotions, which is look for the emotion preceding distraction or any situation. So when you find yourself distracted or having a strong reaction, become aware of the internal trigger that is prompting it and try to identify exactly what you're feeling. Then the second one is write down the internal trigger along with the time and day and what you were doing when you felt that internal trigger, which will help you then to link the situations and resulting behaviors with the internal triggers. And the better you get at noticing the thoughts and feelings that precede certain behaviors, the better you will become at managing them over time. And then the last one is explore the negative sensation with curiosity instead of contempt. Get curious about the sensations you're feeling, which is true. Like, it's part of like meditation. It's sitting there with no judgment and just letting it go. Thoughts come and go. Nothing's ever certain. The feelings you have are never certain or set. They come and go. Everything comes and goes. But it's important just to, like it says, just sit there, maybe write it down, because it's going to be easy for you to link the emotions and the feelings with the situation, with what's happened. Mm-hmm. And more so just not judging it, because it's not a part of you. It's just the way you're feeling at that moment in time. It's not something that's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Like being happy, being sad, being angry, frustrated. No one's that 24/7. No one. I mean, people can try and be happy 24/7, but you're not going to be. And to be honest, I've said it before about why would you want to be? Like, apparently it's 34,000 emotions. Why wouldn't you want to try and feel them all? Or why wouldn't you let them come into you? It's maybe for a split moment, but it's just we're so complex as humans. I'd want to be able to feel them all. And it's all life's for me, life's all about having these different experiences. And along with that, you're going to have all these different emotions, sensations, feelings, thoughts, and so on. It's something to be grateful for as well, to be able to express all them different emotions and feelings. So I know you touched on this as well slightly, but what advice would you give someone who's looking to improve on mastering their emotions? I've got some tips as well on here, but I want to obviously go through your stuff first.
I think take time for yourself to be with yourself on your own, especially. Instead of doing the talk, observe, listen. You know, we've said this before, but some people do journaling. One thing that actually helped me personally, when I used to do journaling, when I was little, I always used to write diaries. That's actually one thing that kept me going. But until the age of sometimes 2021, when I would turn 20, between 20 and 21, I had something like a book, which I actually still have that one. Sometimes I go back and read that book. Those emotions I felt back then, I've not once felt it now. Those were much worse. It was a dark place. And my diary when I was younger, they still got the lock-in. It's totally pink. And sometimes I remember when I went back to my parents, I read it. And those sadness I felt, I don't feel it anymore. So sometimes I do feel like if you're feeling some type of, in those moments, write those feelings down. Explain, describe how it feels. Or draw, paint, sketch it out, throw something out there and keep it. Then go back and describe the painting to yourself. Or, read it back to you, what you've written, and learn where it's come from. Maybe something I've said to my sister, create a mind map. This is how you feel right now. Anxious, angry, sad. Even when you're happy, write those moments down. Not just the negative feelings, but also your happy feelings. You know when people say they're in the feels, in the moments, it's just a moment of feeling. And I should explain, it's only temporary. When those people are in those moments and they make a decision, next 5 minutes, they regret it. So instead of making that impulsive decision, write it down. Just take a moment and actually be logistic about it, be rational about it, and think, is it going to be the long term? Are you feeling anything that we feel right now? I should say it's not a long-term feeling. You're never going to be 24/7 happy. You're never going to be 24/7 angry. Same as hungry as well. You're going to eat and you're going to be satisfied with it. But even that satisfaction is very temporary. You're going to get hungry again in 3 hours' time. But you understand when you're hungry. So the same way you've got the answer when you're hungry, you will also find the answer when you're angry, when you're happy. Obviously, even happiness should have an answer as well. Understand why you're happy. And not because you've seen one guy in the morning or the second guy in the afternoon. You've seen both of them, but one or the other gave you the feeling. Or is it generally because you liked it? Or did you like the attention? And if it is it toxic? There's so many things. It's almost like a whole a diagram, and you go underneath it to find the roots of it. Not always we need to find the answers, but to understand where these emotions come from, it is a long-term closure for us, I'd say. So
there's always that moment as well with the stimulus and the response, and there's always a gap there. And in that gap, you can decide how you want to respond to it. And that's why it's important for me anyway, and for other people may feel the same way, to sit there, not necessarily actually sitting, but just be with the thought.
Yeah.
Because whilst you have that gap, whilst you have that moment in time where you can then think about it, say, okay, this has happened. I feel this way because of so-and-so. And then you can also just then decide, again, some people it will be difficult for them to do. They have to get used to it. But in that moment, you can then decide, okay, is this something in my control? Yes, perfect. Let's take action. Let's do something about it. If it's no, you gotta let it go. It may be hard, but you've just got to do it because you'll feel much better. Be a weight lifted off you for it. And there's something you mentioned as well about before about the dark times or in them dark moments. And it's a quote I've got here, which is, sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted.
That's a good way of seeing it. And that moment, I feel like not a lot of people will understand because that's not how it feels, but you can change with that perspective of the quote. That something that I've gone through last year, if I heard that quote, I think it would have also helped me, but I've had to figure it out my own way. And what I've taught myself that in that past, so 2023, Steph thought she's tired. I'm going to leave her to the side. So I'm going to work on this current me at the moment. So once I'm better, I'm going to bring her back. And then together we'll be stronger than before. And it's true because the old you, just use it as a seed and plant it. And even when she said, like, you know, the quote, it does feel like buried, but if you just use it in a different term, like you're just planting yourself and now you just water yourself, focus on yourself, grow yourself, you come out of it. I've gone out of it many times. And it's never something that you put yourself into the situation. Life just throws you things. You just, you know, every single situation is different. You know, it's never the same answer how you get yourself out of it, but you have to go through with the storm. Just push it through. Sometimes tools come in your way that you want to use it, an umbrella, a brake, a house, but it will get destroyed along the way. But all you can focus on is that don't give up yourself, because if other people are giving up on you, the last person you should is you. And you can just focus it because storm also goes away. Everything is a passing situation. But yeah, I love that quote.
Yeah, it's a nice quote. There's one little technique I want to share with people about managing or navigating your emotions. I don't think I talked to you about it beforehand, which is leaves on a stream. Leaves on a stream, which is you've got to imagine you're seated beside a gentle flowing stream. Then imagine there are leaves floating down that stream, and place each thought in your mind on the leaf. It could be a memory, a word, a worry, or an image. And let each of those leaves float down that stream, swirling away as you sit and watch. Which again is just the letting go. The thoughts come and go, the memory, the feelings come and go. You've just got to watch them just float away. It's like with meditation. There are going to be thoughts that pop in and out. Mm-hmm. You just got to sort of sit there, observe them with no judgment, and then don't have to zoom in on them, don't have to focus on them, because they'll just go. They'll just go. And so one last thing I want to ask you, and we're going to sort of try and bring these two together now, because this has been my last point. So on everything you know about relationships and emotions and working through the emotions, they are tied together in a way. Mm-hmm. So what's one piece of advice for someone who's looking to be in a relationship, or someone who's in a relationship and struggling with that? What's one bit of advice you'd give them?
I think if you're struggling, ask yourself, why are you struggling? What is it that is giving you the brick wall that you can't go through? Is it you? Because I realized it was never the other person. It was actually me, because I allowed myself to be hurt, because I've never learned it from my first lesson. So I always thought the other person is not changing, but it's actually me. I didn't change. I didn't change the boundary for myself. I changed it for the people, changed very much. And yet it was never enough for them. Do things for yourself. If you feel unhappy, even if kids are involved, if you're not happy, ask yourself why you're not happy. And also, if you feel like no relationship is going well for you and you're still single, again, if you don't want to be in a relationship, that's one choice. That's your choice. That's fine. But if you want to be one and nothing works out, the guys that you are seeing it's not great guys. Sorry, I had stuff in my mouth.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to be in a relationship and the guys that you see and date, and they're not great guys at all, every single guys of them, I don't think it's their problem. I think it's you. So, and really just take time for yourself. Learn about your own feelings first. You don't care about the other person. Look who is making the effort for yourself. Feel them. Are they feeling you? And for the people, for the single ones, love yourself first. Always love yourself. Be independent. Enjoy your loneliness, lonely times as well, while being alone anyway. If you're lonely, put a movie on. Have some snacks. Get a pet. Focus, just try and be independent. So then once you are in a relationship, that you can be a teamwork together. And again, for someone who's struggling, you need to get to the core of it. Why are you struggling? Why are you not so happy? If you feel like you have the amazing relationship, the guy is so great, and you're still unhappy, you need to really look deep down in you then and think, is it really the relationship or is it you? And it's an ongoing travel journey, really.
As always, Steph, it's a pleasure and an honour to have you on here.
Thank you. It's been
And for those who want to see more of you, they can go and find you on the Cherry Bomb podcast. Obviously, your details will be put in here as well. But any last remarks? Anything you want to say?
no, it's been a very interesting one. I very much enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, for those watching, it's Halloween, so enjoy yourselves. And right, let's go egg some houses.
Yeah, we
Let's do
should.
it.
I've got a whole list.